it's going to be an exciting month we got going on here in Albany County to celebrate our African American History Month. But this is the beginning of an exciting month of events honoring the countless accomplishments and contributions made by African Americans in Albany County and our nation as a whole. The theme of this year's celebration is a century of Black life, a history and culture. Over the next few weeks, we will be celebrating these aspects of history.
Liberty, let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roar.
My great-grandmother was born enslaved, and she lived a very long life. And it was just, I think about it so often that this person actually touched me. She died on my 8th birthday, so she was very, very old. But the thing that she did was she told us about and left records, and she had been interviewed about the oppression that took place during the period of enslavement. Then along comes my parents. My father and my mother grew up in Jim Crow South. So they were not happy with the circumstances that they have to live in. And my father was concerned about the criminal justice system, because if any of you read, Slavery by Another Name, you know what happened to black men who were on the street. They were basically taken off the streets under the criminal justice system and incarcerated, and in a system that was, quote, worse than slavery.
Throughout this great nation and all over the world now, therefore be it resolved by this honorable body that February 2015 is hereby designated as African American History Month in Albany County.
First, I want to welcome you here to 112 State Street in the Cal Room for African American Month for Albany County. It's a very special month for all of us. We in the Albany County Hall of Records have rich tradition in African American history here in Albany County. And in the back, you can see displayed back there a lot of the information that we brought with us today. There's much more, but we brought what we could today. Now, Jasmine and Ginny and Michael are back there to answer any questions you may have regarding the history that's displayed there today. But I also encourage any of you to stop by the Albany County Hall of Records and actually come down and see what we have. It's really a tremendous place. I call it the Albany County's most kept secret, the Albany County Hall of Records, because of what we have there.
Starlin D'Angelo, I'm the executive director at Shaker Heritage Society. We were founded in 1977. It was one of those bicentennial Save Our History kind of organizations. And we work closely with Albany County to preserve the site of the first Shaker community. We're really blessed here in Albany to have this rich Shaker heritage, and it is a part of African American history as well, because the Shakers believed in gender and racial equality. They believed that God was dual in nature, both male and female, and in their theological texts, they say that all souls were created equal, and they believed that. So as early as 1790, we know that there were African American Shakers living here in New York State, and also in Albany County.
My father was a true Renaissance man. He was born in Charleston, South Carolina in 1928. He was hospitalized with rheumatic fever and diphtheria till the 5th grade. But he started doodling with cartoons from the Sunday newspapers, and eventually he was mentored by Richard Halsey and other prominent artists in Charleston, South Carolina. He also became a prolific musician. He played all the woodwind instruments. He taught himself French from scratch. He started the Simpson Gallery in 1954, the year I was born in New York. And over a 60-year period, as I said, he's combined both modern and tribal art. We have artistic pieces from 60 different cultures, everything from totem poles from Australia, Native American art. My father actually had a residence in Paris even 10 years after he was too sick to be able to travel. And for a long period, he was traveling on the Concorde between New York and Paris, collecting art. It's unfortunate that only 3% of the people who actually purchase high-level tribal art are African American. And in America, we don't really have the appreciation for our own arts. For example, the all-jazz station in New York City, WRVR, was turned into a country western station. Now, you have some of the greatest jazz musicians in the world in New York City. So it was clearly not an economic issue. But culturally, we tend to be somewhat myopic in terms of our appreciation for the fine arts. And I think that we're at a loss as a society because of it.
I worked at the University of Houston from 1982 to 1989. Just a great place. I loved it. That's where I did my PhD. Had a young man come in my office. I thought he was a pretty good basketball player, and I went to the coach and tried to get him a scholarship. The coach said, "I don't want him. He can't help us. He can't play." He was one of 6 children. He was washing dishes in a local restaurant in 3rd Ward, which is the ghetto in Houston. All black, the highest crime rate in Houston, as I'm sure the DA can attest to. I went back the next week and I said, "Give this man a chance, coach, to get on the team, and if he doesn't make it, I will pay you the tuition that you're going to give, because you have one scholarship." I handle scholarships. I knew what he had. And so if it doesn't work out, I'll give you another one next year. I'll even give you 2. So he said, "Okay, on that deal, we'll take him." Now, here's a guy, single parent, washing dishes, never was going to get a chance to go to college. We give him an opportunity. His name's Clyde Drexler. He goes on. He becomes a Hall of Famer. He gets an education. He's got 4 children. All 4 of them, his youngest boy went to RPI, has a degree that I can't even pronounce in some kind of engineering. He's in the gaming industry. But again, 2 quick things. Opportunity, we opened the door for him, and he took advantage of it. And he took advantage of it because of discipline. And someone, and I was the guy that we would close the door and we would talk, because there were times he wanted to say things and do things and take care of things in the street jargon that he had learned. I said, "You can't do that. You're in a different situation. You find another way to solve it." And so being exposed to things outside of your comfort level, particularly with African-American males, is really important and really significant. And I agree with David. We're no better off, and I would say we're worse today than we were 60 years ago.
Those, you might have heard from relatives, from friends, from parents, from grandparents, some of you, some of the things and some of the incidents and some of the problems that we experienced in Albany, and I'm strictly speaking of Albany, in terms of the police institution. It was I think the police felt that, the way you keep down crime is that you do this by fear, and by fear of the police, and it simply does not work. It does not work, because then you create animosity towards the police, and it was a time and a period of time where name calling, using the names that I don't care to repeat here, of course, but I think it was a time where it was just a carryover from previous history in terms of the institution itself. How do you keep them in line? How do you keep down crime? Is that you create fear of the police. And that was the atmosphere which I grew up here in Albany. And someone asked me, "Well, why would you want to become a police officer seeing the things that you saw?" Well, I kind of felt that You know, you cannot bring changes to an institution from the outside. You have to try to work it from the inside.
And the voting is the important issue that I want to sort of dwell on today, is you couldn't vote, you were enslaved, you were imprisoned, and you couldn't vote. Okay, so it took a civil war to get rid of that system. And then, and I'm making this quick and general, but then we come into a period of the first Jim Crow, which dealt with discrimination, segregation in this country. And most of it was focused on the South, okay? And so one of the key pieces of that period was the convict lease system. And I also mentioned that my father was subjected to all kinds of things by police and business people who were geared to just take black men off the street and come up with some kind of charges, put them in prison, and then lease them out